let's go ahead and get started. I have a question for you. Have you ever let fear hold you back from doing something? I bet you have. I have. I know that I have before. And so I do a lot of reading about personal development, about mindset tricks, about how to get ourselves out of ruts, how to change our identities, all this stuff. Fear is a recurring topic that comes up over and over and over and over. How do I do it when I'm afraid? How do I know what fear is real, what fear isn't? How do I overcome my fear? Is a question that I get asked constantly. I'm sure you have asked that question yourself. How do I overcome this? Here's the answer. You don't. I know we don't want to hear that, but you don't overcome the fear. There are some things we can do to combat it. Again, you don't just get rid of your fears and overcome them and suddenly you're a fearless human being. The best coaches, the best speakers, the best mentors, the best athletes, we all have fear. Being a human, you're going to have fear. It's not going to go away. But if you can learn to do something with it so that when it hits you like a ton of bricks, when you feel the anxiousness, when you feel your heart start pumping and your palms sweat because you have to make a phone call, you have to talk to somebody new that intimidates you, what do we do with it if we don't know how to process it? These are a couple tips that have really helped me in my mindset around fear, and hopefully it's something you can take home and try yourself, and it can help you as well. So the first thing, think of fear, not like this big, scary creature. We're going to break it down into an acronym, and I don't remember where I first saw this, but I can't take credit for it. But fear, the word, you can break it down into false evidence appearing real. And let's walk through what that actually means. False evidence appearing real. And again, I was a person, and maybe if you're listening to this, you are one of these people. Something would come my way. I had to make a phone call to a prospect, maybe in my past job. And I had a fear pop up. Oh, what if they make fun of me? What if they judge me? What if they don't think I know what I'm doing? What if I don't think I know what I'm doing? What if they somehow tell all my other clients that I said something stupid and then I lose everything, right? And so before I pick up that phone, I would have this Rolodex of fears come up. Oh, what if? And then we create scenarios, false evidence. We create these scenarios. We walk ourselves through future moments that could potentially happen, but most of the time they absolutely never will. And so we put ourselves through the stress and anxiety of a false future that is not actually happening. And so we put ourselves in this moment that is complete fiction, but we tell ourselves, oh, it could happen though, and therefore I don't want to make this phone call. Therefore, I'm going to tell myself every excuse in the book to not make it happen or to put it off as long as possible. If you are a serial procrastinator, it's not actually that you are just late or that you just love to procrastinate, or this was my excuse all the time in high school. I do better under pressure. Have you said that before? The reality is we don't do better under pressure. But when we procrastinate, often we're just not facing the fear of inadequacy. If we do the activity, we do it right now and we do it right, there's still some fear there usually that's like, oh, don't do it. Don't put all your effort into it right now and make it up to your full potential. Let's find reasons to push it till the last minute and just convince ourselves that then it makes us have our best work, when really it's just some inadequacy coming up, some fears coming up, some self-judgment, some self-criticism, something else that is causing the procrastination. You don't have to be a procrastinator forever. You do need to do some self-reflection about what is causing me to delay this. Why am I not immediately jumping in and taking action on this thing? Instead, I'm going to wait until Friday at 4 when it's due Friday at 5 and just say, yeah, I'm really good under pressure, Brie. I was this person and I was full of crap. It was never my best work when I needed to get a 3-hour project done in 1 hour because I was laser focused. That was a lie. That was a lie I told myself for a long time. Do not be past me. All right, so if you're procrastinating, it's probably because there's a little bit of fear behind it that you need to, again, not overcome, but understand and learn what to do with it. All right, so fear, false evidence appearing real. And that's why when we have these thoughts, the what if spirals, you can feel it in your body, right? It's a physiological reaction. If you hear the bushes rustle outside, it's in our subconscious, it's in our DNA, it's in our brains. We're going to look and see what's happening. We're going to prepare for the threats because it keeps us safe. Our amygdala doesn't get turned off. It's the part of our brain, it's the animalistic part that senses that fear and puts us into that fight or flight mode. We don't have the same threats, though, that when humans were first created, or whatever you believe in. When humans were first here, we don't live in caves. We don't have to worry about all of the outdoor elements and the saber-toothed tigers coming to eat us. Okay? We don't have those same physical threats anymore. However, our brains haven't developed beyond this. We have the same brain. And so our brain is now just looking for threats to look out for to keep us safe because that's what it's designed to do. It's a great mechanism. However, our lives have changed and now it's come to hurt us. And so we create fears now. We create fears that aren't there because we don't have saber-toothed tigers waiting in the bushes outside of our house for us anymore. Now our brains create the fears for us and they say, oh, we're so afraid of cold calling. Oh, we're so afraid of prospecting. We're afraid of putting ourselves out there on social media, and gives us all kinds of excuses as to why we should be afraid. And it makes sense because physically we still feel the same. We feel threatened. And so physically we have to figure out how to replace the fear feeling with something else. And so if you've ever played sports, before you go and enter the field, before you actually walk out onto the court for a game, depending on what sport you're in, I bet there's a little bit of fear, but there was also excitement. And so when we have those anxious feelings, the palms are sweating, the heart's racing, you can feel your stomach drop. It can be fear and anxiety, or we can replace that. And we can say, hey, actually, I feel the same way when I'm excited. And if you can tell your brain why the feelings are there and make sense out of them, oh, we're excited because we're about to go and play this game. We're excited because we're going to go crush this team. We're excited. The fear gets channeled into something positive. It's the same physiological reaction, but it's our brain that makes meaning from the response. Let me say that again. Your body is going to feel the same when you're in fear and when you're in excitement. It's the same physiological reaction. However, we, the conscious controller, our brains, our minds, you right now, you get to decide what you want the feeling to mean. And it can be fearful, meaning I don't want to go forward, I don't want to do this, I'm going to pull myself back. Or it can be exciting. Ooh, I'm feeling this. You know why? It's because I'm about to go win the game. It's because I'm going to go do something fun and exciting and new. It's not fearful. If it is, I love it and I'm excited about it. And you can feel those feelings. And instead, again, of you automatically defaulting into hiding, fleeing, being smaller, you can feel the physical part of it and get a big grin on your face and be like, yes, this is where I expand my comfort zone. Yes, this is where I step onto the field and play the game. Now I'm just part of the team. Now we're ready to play. Now we're ready to go. And that is so much more of an empowering place to land when you start to feel the physical reaction, those physical hormones that are creating stress and cortisol and all of that, and adrenaline. You can now tell yourself why it makes sense and you can justify it, and the anxiety is going to come down. The excitement can come up and replace it. And now you can process your fears in such a different way. That mindset switch has helped me tremendously. And I see this all the time when it comes to sales, when it comes to prospecting, when it comes to your business. If we do have those things that we've told ourselves, I'm not good at this, I'm afraid of it, I don't know what I'm doing, what if this happens, blah, blah, blah. You're gonna get physically, you're gonna feel odd speaking for the first time on camera. You're gonna feel a little odd the first time you start cold calling in a business you've never had before. That doesn't mean you're going to feel that way forever, or that it means something bad is going to happen. If we can replace that and be like, I'm excited because of all the opportunities that can come. I'm excited because my palms are sweating and I feel this right now. That means I am pushing through to the next level, to the next highest performance, to the next level of me. I'm learning, I'm growing. Fear doesn't have to be scary anymore. Fear can be awesome. If you can make your fear awesome for you, it sounds silly, but it works. And it can help move you forward and get past that hump of inaction, feeling small, procrastination, having a business idea that you've had for 5 years that you've never taken action on because you're afraid. So rewrite that fear for yourself, redo that meaning, and remember that the false realities we've made up for ourselves they aren't happening. We're just putting ourselves through these future scenarios that aren't even there. Go make the phone call, and 99% of the time, whatever worst case scenario we had in our heads, it is not going to happen. And we just put ourselves through all this anxiety for no reason. All right, false evidence appearing real. Remind yourself where you're at in reality right now. Remind yourself that you can decide what you want these feelings to mean and how you want to move forward with them. All right, that's my first tip about fear. My second one is if you really need to kind of journal through a scenario that just keeps coming up for you over and over, and you're like, yeah, physically I'd love to say I'm so excited, but Brie, I'm not there yet. That's okay. We evolve through different things, and I call it having a bag of tricks. Different flavors for different folks are going to work depending on where you're at in your journey. And so if you need to actually write down why these false futures truly are false, you can take yourself through journal activities. You can take yourself through kind of question-answer journaling, which is my favorite, by the way. Not just gratitude. I love gratitude, but if you're going to journal, ask yourself questions and then write down the answer. That's how you really get to know yourself more and more and get yourself thinking in new ways. If you don't like the answer, start asking yourself different questions, okay? So if we're trying to overcome our fears in a way that we can actually use the fear and remind ourselves that maybe it's not so bad. Maybe the saber-toothed tiger I think is in my bush is actually just a little kitten that was born yesterday and is just waiting there to be pet. You know, sometimes we make huge things out of something very small. And so if you can journal through this and ask yourself questions, you can actually diagnose and detect how big this fear could be or how small it could really be. And I just maybe needed to pop the balloon that I've inflated with all of the possibilities and just realize, yeah, it's not that bad. I've done this to myself. I've been there before. No shame if you have also. And so what has worked for me? 3 questions. If I have that what if scenario going on in my brain, okay, what if this happens? Blah, 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 blah. It keeps going on. First question, okay, what is actually the absolute worst thing that could happen if I make that phone call? If I start that business? If I invest this money in this course or program or coach or whatever? What is absolutely the worst thing that could happen? The worst thing that could really happen is maybe you waste your money. Maybe somebody does hang up on you. Then what? And so I like to always ask, then what? Because when we actually write down that worst case scenario, again, it's never as daunting as we like to make ourselves believe. And then when you write it down, you're like, oh, well, I guess I could lose some money. Okay, then what? What's it really going to happen? What is absolutely the worst thing? Start there. It's really never that bad. Then I want you to move on. Okay, what is absolutely the best thing that could happen once I do this activity? What are all the possibilities that could come out of this? Usually that list, if you are in the right mindset for it and you are willing to look, can be a whole lot longer. Maybe this could happen. Maybe this could happen. Maybe this person's just calling me. This happened to me earlier. I had a voicemail from an old advisor that I worked with before. And my first thought was, all right, Brie, Rolodex of fears and what if this happens and what if this happens and what if. Okay, so I avoided making this call for about an hour. Then I got my big girl pants on, I wrote this podcast episode, and I was like, and this is why we need to talk about fear. Because then I just did the activity, and let me tell you, all of my worst case scenarios, none of those got anywhere close. We had a delightful conversation about how he can create a business online on YouTube because, finance is also rubbing him a little wrong right now. So that was really interesting to me. And so what I originally thought, nowhere close. All of the best case scenarios that I could have thought about, some of those started to happen. It's crazy what we tell ourselves that is fiction to try to get ourselves to act or not act accordingly. The stories we tell ourselves are some of the best pieces of fiction out there. Be careful and call yourself when you want to be telling yourself the truth and you're actually telling yourself complete lies, but you're used to it so you justify them. Be careful. I do it to myself. I will catch myself. I'll share them with you as we go. All right, so what's the absolute best thing that can happen? Because if you land anywhere in the middle of that range, you're fine. You're going to be great. And so the third question, what's something average? What's probably going to happen in this situation? And just take all of the really great hope and expectation and really negative expectation out of it and just be like, okay, What's the reality here? I'm going to make this phone call and we're going to have a conversation and then my fear question, and then what? The worst things, normally not going to happen 99% of the time. The best things might actually happen, but if you land anywhere in the middle, you're great. All right, and then my last question, so there's actually 4. What is waiting for me on the other side? And so instead of procrastinating, this question helps me the most. I like to give myself rewards because it gets me to act. So if there's a snack on the other side, I joke about this in some of my group programs, there's snacks on the other sides of our action. Like we get to relax afterwards. We get to move our business forward. We get to call a friend. You get to pet your dog. There's always something waiting for you on the other side that you can look forward to. Remind yourself what that is. And if you keep kicking it down the curb, oh, I'll do it later. Oh, I'll call them tomorrow. Oh, I'll face this huge mountain that I have built up in front of me. I'll face it next week. If you can give yourself a reward on the other side and shorten that timeline to do it sooner, and remind yourself again, what's the worst thing? What's the best thing? What's something kind of in the middle that's probably more likely? And then what do I get when I actually do it? A lot of times you're going to just be like, I'll just do it. And it forces you to just kind of rip that Band-Aid off and give yourself that extra boost of momentum, because afterwards, I get to breathe, I get to think again, I get to go on my walk, I get to go do whatever I want. And so don't let that thing loom until the end of the day, the end of the week. Know what you get on the other side, and a lot of times it's peace. Do you want the peace now? Yes, go make the call now. And that little piece there is often the thing that triggers me into eating the frog first, is what they call it, and just doing that activity, calling that highest prospect, calling that most affluent investor that you've been putting off and wanting to, quote unquote, for months but too afraid. Walk yourself through this. Remind yourself what's waiting on the other side and what opportunities exist out there. And again, the physical feelings don't have to be bad. Let them excite you and remind you that you're alive. If you don't have any fears popping up anymore, you're probably not living a very exciting life. No offense, but it's getting ourselves out of routine and trying new things, keeping us in growth, letting us contribute to the world in new ways. That's what keeps us happy. And so feeling those feelings, it doesn't have to be, oh, I've done it again. I've put myself in this horrible, fearful situation. No, it can be finally, yes, I am alive. I'm doing something new and exciting for me, and I'm ready to go step out into the field and play the game. It makes getting yourself out of your comfort zone empowering instead of terrifying in this place we never want to be. You can get addicted to actually stepping outside your comfort zone, expanding your capacity, and overcoming and overstepping and processing those fears. Again, choose your adventure, but I would rather take the empowering one, even though in the moment, yeah, sometimes my palms sweat and I have to make those phone calls that I feel the dread in my stomach. Walk yourself through these activities. Remember the false stories. Figure out what's actually real. Remind yourself your brain is designed to do this and it makes sense. You are not a lesser human being because you have fears. You are not a lesser human being because you procrastinate. Our brains are designed to make us do very funny things. And so again, the more you just learn how to use them, how to process when these things happen to us, the happier you're going to be, the more successful you're going to be, and the more aware you are so that you're not so hard on yourself. That was something that's one of the best gifts I think that you can get out of personal development, is building that awareness, but also just being humanized in a lot of your actions and emotions. We feel like we're doing things wrong all the time when it's not quote unquote normal, but no one actually tells us really what normal feels like behind the scenes. It's all very surface level. And in a lot of my old friendships especially, we would be drinking buddies and everything would be surface level conversations. We weren't having these deep discussions about what truly it feels like to be a human and to go through ups and downs and emotions and fears and struggles and challenges and empowerment and all of it. We don't talk about that. And so when you have them internally yourself and you don't know if it feels normal, we often feel like we're wrong, we're different, we don't fit in. And that's not true. And so I want you to know that when you have fear and you procrastinate and you do these things, you are not alone. You are special though, because you are here and you're listening and you're building that awareness. And because of that, self-development will have so many gifts for you that you don't even know yet. You haven't even seen yet. Maybe you have a taste of it, but there is so much more for you. So that's what I got for you today. Go learn to dance with your fears. If you have been putting something off, use this as your sign to go get started. If there is that one activity, that one person that fills you with dread right now, go eat the frog. Go walk yourself through the journal questions. Go remind yourself that all the stories you have fictionalized, you're a fantastic author, good for you, but they don't have to be true. Go write a new one. Go face your fears. That's what I got for you. I will see you next time.